We are hearing from the family of a woman who was shot and killed in front of her children last night during her 6-year-old's birthday party.
And investigators believe the father of her 2 children pulled the trigger. The incident also had neighbors ducking for cover. Jason Miles live in Northeast Houston with the latest on this tragic story. Jason.
Breaking news in the case of a missing teen from Prince George's County. This morning, authorities announced the arrest of a Bowie man in connection with Dakara Thompson's death. The 19-year-old was reported missing August 23rd. Her body was discovered in Anne Arundel County days later. News 4's Jessica Albert joins us live with what we know about the arrest. Hi, Jessica.
Tonight, new surveillance video showing the moments after a shooting that left a young mother dead during a birthday party for one of her children. Matt Doherty has the latest from HPD headquarters with the story tonight. Matt?
Her name was Jalen Amari Whitlock Easterling, 25 years old, mother of 2 little girls, a woman trying to rewrite her life after deep scars of the past. But that life was stolen on the very day of her eldest daughter's birthday. At first, all fingers pointed to her ex-boyfriend, the one who had threatened her, abused her, and even fired shots into her home just weeks earlier. It looked like a familiar pattern. Victim, abuser, murder. Everyone thought the case was clear. But then, a forensic report turned everything upside down. The bullet that killed her didn't come from the main suspect's gun. If you're someone who craves true crime stories, the twists that send chills down your spine, and the heartbreaking cases that never should have happened, then stay with me. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from so together we can spread awareness about cases like this. These are stories not only meant to be told, but meant to serve as warnings. Jalen Amari Whitlock Easterling was not a name that had ever appeared in the headlines until everything fell apart. Before that fateful night, she was simply a 5-year-old woman trying to navigate life. By day, Jalen was a tax consultant, patiently spending hours with paperwork, helping clients untangle complicated numbers. By night, she became a creative hairstylist, turning every strand of hair into a work of art. Friends said Jalen had golden hands, but what they admired most was the heart she had for her children. Her 2 little girls, 6 and 4, were the center of her universe. Jalen never let them miss a birthday party, a family outing, or even a simple afternoon at the park. What she didn't have for herself, she poured entirely into making sure her daughters grew up, surrounded by love and the feeling of safety. Her cousin, Ashlyn McBride, once said, "Those 2 little girls were Jalen's everything. She was always smiling, but behind that smile was a silent battle to raise her children and protect them." But that battle was never simple. The father of her 2 daughters was Jalen Foreman, a relationship that lasted just over a year, but left far too many scars. Foreman was never the partner she dreamed of. He was controlling, jealous, and turned their relationship into a prison. And even after the breakup, Foreman clung to her, unwilling to accept the freedom Jalen had fought so hard to reclaim. Still, Jalen did not collapse under the weight of it all. She began rebuilding her life with another man, Devon Weber. He was the complete opposite of Foreman, gentle, supportive, and caring for her 2 little girls as if they were his own. Her loved ones said it was as if Jalen had been reborn, more confident, more joyful, finally able to dream of a peaceful home. On that birthday night, it was Devon who helped her hang balloons, set the table, and prepare the cake. For Jalen, this wasn't just a celebration of her daughter turning 6, it was a milestone for her little family's new journey. A beginning, a fresh chapter. Yet in the darkness beyond, a shadow refused to fade. Foreman was still out there watching, seething with jealousy, waiting for his chance. A chance to drag Jalen back into his grip of control, or to destroy everything. In a relationship, the warning signs often appear early, yet few are strong enough to cut ties from the start. For Jalen, the months spent with Jalen Foreman were like living inside an invisible cage. Foreman always wanted to know where she went, who she saw, what she was doing, as if every step Jalen took had to be under his watch. The constant phone calls, the relentless texts, and if she took too long to reply, he saw it as betrayal. At first, Jalen may have mistaken it for love, for concern, but over time, she realized it was sickening control. When Jalen decided to end the relationship, many believed she was finally free. But what they didn't know was that the most dangerous moment comes when an abuser loses control. And Foreman proved exactly that. He would often show up unannounced at her door, using the excuse of visiting the children. He followed her on the road, forcing Jalan to live under the constant weight of being watched. That sense of unease crept into every ordinary moment of her life. The tension escalated sharply in the summer of 2024. In July, just 2 months before the birthday, a drive-by shooting targeted the home where Jalan and her 2 daughters lived. Bullets tore through the night, leaving holes in the walls and a deep terror in her heart. Police suspected Foreman, but there wasn't enough evidence to charge him. For a mother, what could be more terrifying than seeing her home, the one place she believed was safe for her children, turned into a battlefield? Friends recalled that after the incident, Jalan couldn't sleep peacefully. She often checked the windows, changed her routes to work, and lived with the haunting fear that at any moment he could show up. Even so, Jalan tried to keep life normal for her children. She organized picnics, cooked dinner as usual, and smiled with her 2 little girls. But in her eyes, her loved ones could see it clearly, an ever-present worry that never left her. Those signs, the stalking, the harassment, the drive-by shooting, should have been enough to build a strong wall of legal protection. But like so many other victims, Jalan was met with the same familiar words. Just call the police if you feel unsafe. She did call, and yet, when she needed it most, the system still left her unprotected. After the July 2024 drive-by shooting, Jalan knew the line between threat and action had been erased. Foreman was no longer just a haunting presence in her messages or outside her door. He had turned the threat into reality. And from that moment on, every day felt like a ticking countdown. By August, neighbors had grown used to the sight of Foreman's car circling the neighborhood at odd hours. Once, he stopped in front of the house, engine running in the dead of night, headlights glaring straight into Jalan's home, an unspoken message, "I'm still here." Legally, these actions were hard to prosecute, but for the victim, they were nothing less than a death sentence hanging overhead. Meanwhile, Jalan was trying to rewrite her life. She began openly sharing her relationship with Devon Weber. Devon was entirely different. He listened. He helped around the house. He played with the 2 little girls. For Jalan, he was proof that love didn't always have to come with violence. But having a new boyfriend only fueled Foreman's rage. In his eyes, it wasn't just about losing love. It was about losing control. The thought of another man inside the home, laughing and playing with his daughters, was enough to turn Foreman into a live fuse. Police were called to Jalan's home multiple times during this period. Each report noted heated arguments, threats, and sometimes the chilling silence of Foreman when questioned. But after a few brief exchanges, it always ended the same way, officers leaving, and Jalan left behind in fear. Her loved ones noticed the change. Though she still smiled with her daughters, Jalan was constantly checking the security cameras, sometimes standing silently at the curtain, peering outside. She knew every move she made could be under watch. In private conversations, Jalan admitted she was scared enough to consider moving, but money, work, and her daughter's schooling made that plan nearly impossible. Instead of leaving, she chose to fortify her home with hope that her new love and her efforts to build a better life would carry her through. In September 2024, as her eldest daughter's birthday approached, Jalan poured all her energy into planning the party. She wanted it to be a beautiful memory, a testament that, despite everything, she and her girls could still have happiness. Devon eagerly helped, hanging balloons, preparing the cake and gifts. No one knew that while they were busy with candles and ribbons, somewhere out there, Foreman was watching. To him, the party wasn't a new beginning. It was the excuse to end everything. The 12th of September, 2024. Houston eased into a cool Thursday evening. Inside a house at the end of the street, children's laughter filled the air, surrounded by balloons, a birthday cake, and brightly wrapped presents. Jalan wore a simple dress, her hair neatly tied, her face glowing with contentment. Her eldest daughter had just turned 6. It was a small but complete party. A few close friends, some relatives, and most importantly, Devon, the man who had stood by her through the recent dark months. He helped cut the cake, welcomed the guests, and later tidied up in the kitchen as everyone began to leave. 8:30 p.m. The party was winding down. The children had gone upstairs to play with their new toys. No one could have known that Jalen's life had only 5 minutes left. I have once to into the rind of candid, rebandoned 70s, and a great life, the well matter, the mattered, and norms with might. Then came the sound of the doorbell. Devon set down the dish towel and stepped out with Jalen. At the door stood Jalen Foreman, the one man they least wanted to see. In his hand was a sloppily wrapped gift box. His voice was flat. "I came to bring my daughter her birthday present." Jalen froze. Devon moved in front of her, answering firmly, "You know the agreement. Drop it at your mother's house. You're not allowed here." A friend of Jalen's, still inside the house, overheard Foreman's voice sharpen. "I know where you live. Step outside and say that to me." Foreman walked away, but it wasn't a retreat. He went back to his car, and this time there was a gun in his hand. Through the window, Devon saw it. He sprinted to the kitchen, yanked open a drawer, and pulled out a handgun. He shouted toward Jalen, "Get the kids upstairs, now." She ran toward the hallway, but instead of fleeing, Jalen turned back to the front door, maybe to lock it, maybe to shield it. Her hand touched the doorknob when gunfire erupted. Glass shattered. Bullets tore through wood, metal, air, and through Jalen. One struck her in the left cheek, dropping her instantly in the doorway. Blood seeped across the welcome mat beneath her. Devon fired back. The two little girls screamed as they scrambled up the stairs, hiding inside a closet. In less than a minute, a chaotic gunfight erupted, shattering the calm of what had once been a quiet neighborhood. Foreman retreated, then came back. Neighbors later recalled him shouting, "I'm ending this. Come out. I've reloaded." Gunfire erupted again. One terrified neighbor said, "I thought the bullets would come into my house. My child is only 5 years old." 8:35 p.m. Police arrived at the scene. They found Jalen lifeless, lying in a pool of blood right where she had hung the birthday banner that very morning. The cake sat half-eaten on the table. Balloons still floated in the air. But the laughter was gone. Foreman had vanished. Devon was still holding the gun, gasping for breath. And the two little girls, trembling in the upstairs closet, were too afraid to come out.
There's little evidence today at this townhome where a birthday celebration was interrupted last night by deadly gunfire. Houston police say a woman identified by her family as Jalen Easterling was throwing the party for one of her 2 young children when she was fatally shot multiple times in front of the kids, her boyfriend, and others.
It all happened in just 5 minutes. A birthday turned into a funeral. A new beginning became an abrupt ending. But the most shocking detail was in the bullet. The bullet that took Jalen's life did not come from Foreman's gun. When police arrived, everything felt suspended between two worlds. On one side, the lingering air of childhood joy. On the other, blood, bullets, and a brutal truth that could never be undone. Jalen Easterling, 25 years old, and pregnant, lay motionless in her doorway, her head tilted to one side, blood spreading across the welcome mat. Bullet holes riddled the walls. On the table, the birthday cake sat half-finished, its unlit candles sunk into the white frosting. Police sealed off the scene. Neighbors poured out some crying, others frozen in shock. A mother from the house next door whispered to a local reporter, "My little girl hasn't slept since that night. She screams every time she hears a car go by." Within 24 hours, Jalen's image flooded social media. Photos of her in her hairstyling gown, holding her 2 daughters, or smiling brightly at her last graduation. Alongside them came words of grief and questions with no answers. Why did a mother have to die inside her own home? Why did no one stop this from happening? Jalen's family, especially her mother, Tamara Whitlock, was crushed under a grief so heavy it felt impossible to breathe. At a community prayer vigil, she said, "How do I explain to my granddaughter that her mother is never coming back? And with the baby in Jalen's belly, I lost my very first grandchild, too. 3 lives stolen in one night. A mother, an unborn child, and a piece of childhood that can never return." Within a week, Houston police issued a warrant for Jalen Foreman, the man who had controlled, threatened, and stood as the prime suspect. He turned himself in 5 days later, charged with first-degree murder, with bail set at $1 million. No one denied that Foreman was the spark, the man who brought the gun to her doorstep, the reason Jalin had lived in fear for months. But legally, the fatal bullet wasn't his. A verdict rooted in law. But was it truly justice? Jalin's mother, Angela Whitlock, spoke through tears. If he, Foreman, had followed the agreement, left the gift at his mother's house like he was told, my granddaughter would still be alive. The baby boy not yet born would still be alive. And Devon, I don't know if he meant it or not. But the truth is, neither of those men will be at the girl's next birthday, and neither will Jalin. And so, a case that once seemed clear ended with a chain of unanswered questions. Who truly bears responsibility? Has justice really been served? Or is this all just the consequence of a system that failed over and over again? See.
Thompson. They have arrested 35-year-old Hugo Hernandez Mendez of Bowie and charged him with her murder. Investigators say Hernandez Mendez is in the country illegally and an ICE detainer was issued for him yesterday. Police say surveillance video shows Takara getting into Hernandez Mendez's car the night that she went missing near where her car was found in Hyattsville.
I was terrified. It was loud and it sounded like it was going into my home.
Houston police say a woman was throwing a birthday party for one of her children. Among those inside this home, her 4-year-old and 6-year-old, and the mom's new boyfriend. And among those not invited, the birthday child's father. Police say he showed up at around 8:30 last night and stood at the doorway. Then there was an argument. Neighbor Felicia Adams says the ex-husband was shouting.
Let's end this now.
Soon after that, she says he started shooting.
I stayed in the corner watching what was going on. I think I made eye contact with him.
Then she says he took off in the vehicle you see here.
My heart broke. I thought something happened to those children in there.
Luckily, the children were unharmed, but unfortunately, the mother, who was found on the floor by police when they arrived, was already dead.
3 lives were lost in a single night. Jalin, a devoted mother, the unborn child who never had a chance, and the part of childhood her 2 little girls can never get back. But Jalin's death was not an accident, not the result of a fleeting moment of rage. It was the inevitable ending foretold by a long chain of failures. The legal system did not listen when she called. Police did not act strongly enough when she reported. Family court did not protect her when it allowed her harasser continued access to the children. And in the end, no one was there in time to stop the bullet from tearing through her face on the very night of her daughter's birthday. Jalin did everything she was told to do. She reported, she recorded, she installed cameras, she found new love, she threw a birthday party to hold on to joy for her daughters. But none of it was enough, when the system only advised, but never acted. The case of Jalin Easterling must serve as a warning, that a drive-by shooting is attempted murder, not a mere threat. That stalking, unannounced visits, circling a home with headlights are not private matters, but red flags of an impending homicide. That in custody disputes, child exchanges must take place in neutral, supervised locations. And that domestic violence is never just about relationships, it is a community security threat. If this story left a pain in your heart, share it. Help spread what Jalin went through, so another woman doesn't have to die the way she did. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from, so I can keep telling these haunting cases, the stories that must be heard, must be understood, and must drive action. Above all, so that no child has to grow up asking, why did my mother die on my birthday?
Oh man, my heart dropped. I was terrified. It was loud and it sounded like it was going into my home because he was angry. He was shouting and screaming.
While her home wasn't hit, she later found bullet holes in her car.
Yeah, it was scary. My kids, they were terrified. I have a 5-year-old and she wouldn't stop crying yesterday. I know they know who he is and I hope that I can identify him correctly so that way we can go ahead and start bringing this to justice.
This is a young woman who dedicated part of her young life to serving others, And I want that to ring home to all of you, that this is a good young woman who wanted to do good for her community, And now her community will stand behind her family as we seek justice for her.